How are we doing, everyone? Come on, we're in Buenos Aires. Come on, get a bit more energy. How are we all doing here? Yeah, so I'm John. I work with the Safe R&D team. We're primarily working on solutions related to security, censorship resistance, and privacy. And can I get a show of hands? Who here owns a multisig right now? So we have about maybe 50% of people. That's good. Who here knows what a multisig is? Okay, so I'm going to take the assumption that everyone knows what one is. So yeah, a little bit about our team. We're a team of 5 people, primarily focused on building solutions for these 3 pillars. We're mostly inspired by Eric Hughes, who wrote the Cyberpunk Manifesto back in the 90s. Vitalik has since taken quite some inspiration from that, as well as Prescarvio, some security experts within the space. And we are aligned with these values, and we want to be building solutions that address these pillars as well. I want to just outline the problem of this whole talk and kind of our building philosophy behind the solution that we created. Right now, in most multi-sig architectures, your transactions can be watched, they can be creeped on before you execute. And that opens up some attack vectors associated with either minor extractable value or even critical vulnerabilities in your own protocol or critical vulnerabilities in your own operations. And I'll talk to you about 2 examples why this is actually a big problem as well. So why is this a problem? I think the first one, it's primarily this happens quite often, but it kind of goes under the radar. But say Alice-DAO wants to buy 200 Alice-DAO tokens at $100 at the price. Because it's multi-sig, everything involves, every action involves creating the transaction, waiting for multiple signers to sign the actual transaction before it's executed on-chain and broadcasted to the meme pool. So this delay period, while you're in the queue for your signers to coordinate, that's an exploit window for Bob to front-run the transaction, back-run the transaction, or do both and sandwich the transaction. So if Alice-DAO plans to buy 200 tokens, 200 Alice-DAO tokens at $100, Bob sees the transaction in their queue. Bob says, okay, I'll buy the token before, I'll increase the slippage, essentially. I'll increase the price that Alice has to execute on, and also then I'll back-run and I'll sell, knowing that Alice-DAO is buying this, I'll then sell at the actual inflated price as well. I'm not going to go into too much MEV, but the top 10 DAOs have been affected by this before. There are people that are sitting and watching what the top 10 DAOs are doing and trying to make some, multi-sig extractable value from it as well. I want to get scarier now because that's a problem, but it's not the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem here is actually emergency protocol operations. And say Alice-DAO needs to now execute an emergency patch for a critical vulnerability in their contracts. Let's say there is a risk parameter in their DeFi protocol that needs to be fixed, otherwise, it can be exploited. Or let's say there's something in their governance process that can be targeted. And this is a problem because I've seen in the past, from speaking with people, that there has been transactions to literally fix DeFi, or transactions to fix a patch that have been left sitting in a queue for hours or even days. And this is a patch to fix a vulnerability that could involve millions, potentially even billions worth as well. Because these pending fixes are publicly visible, you can deduce what that transaction is trying to fix as well. And that's why we have malicious actors actively watching protocol operation multisigs, seeing what they're doing, seeing whether they're trying to fix a vulnerability in the contracts as well. So this delay period, that is the window for you to get wrecked if you're trying to fix something or cover up your tracks in terms of your contract vulnerabilities, or even your both off-chain and on-chain vulnerabilities that have an interaction with the on-chain world and with the contracts. To give you, I'm not going to name names, but a critical DeFi protocol was very prone to this, having a transaction in the queue for hours that could essentially cause a catastrophic like, knock-on effect of the entire industry. And it's a top 5 protocol as well. So how do we actually address hiding this information? We want to hide the transaction details. We want it only viewable amongst the signers, so nobody that is a malicious actor can be viewing that information and waiting to make an attack based on that information. The answer is AI agents. I'm only messing. It's not AI agents. The answer is actually encryption. We have keys, we have private keys, let's use them. Let's use encryption. We're in the space, we're in the cryptography space, we're in the cryptocurrency space. Let's use encryption. And this is where we've created Secret Harbour, which is just what we call the solution. And it is a way to encrypt multisig transactions for safe, but also for other multisigs as well. This is not specific to safe. This can be applied to other multisig architectures. And what I mean, what is Harbour? It's just an alternative interface to Safe Wallet right now for making multisig transactions. And we've built it in a way that has minimal dependencies, so as censorship resistant as possible. The transaction queue is 100% on-chain, so there's no backend that hosts the queue or coordinates the queue. It's all on-chain. And the signers communicate with signing and signatures via Waku, which is a peer-to-peer trustless protocol. So we're not relying on a centralized entity to coordinate the signatures as well. And you can do multisig transactions on it today, harbour.safe.dev, if you want to try it out. It's experimental beta release right now. We haven't fully audited, but I've been doing this. I've been dogfooding it. We have others dogfooding their transactions as well. It's a way to use it with minimal dependencies, and also, I will talk later, encrypt your transaction details. So Harbour's queue is all on-chain and public to anyone. So we want to make it Secret Harbour, i.e. we want to hide this queue with encryption. And what Secret Harbour is a key exchange server. It's all on-chain. It's all hosted on-chain for encrypted communication. So that means signers can create secret transactions, and other signers can then receive the transaction, decrypt the secret transaction, understand the transaction details, sign it, and eventually execute it on-chain as well. And again, this is all on-chain. We're not using some centralized crappy backend hosted by AWS. I want to talk to you about the key exchange server. So the signers need to exchange encryption keys to enable this. And unfortunately, Ethereum uses public addresses and not public keys. So you can't necessarily do encryption with your public Ethereum address. There are workarounds, but a common security practice is to decouple the key you sign with the key you encrypt with. And I'm not a hardcore cryptographer, but it is a common practice to decouple those two to increase the security of the overall solution as well. What we use to create a separate encryption key is just a simple X25519 enabled Diffie-Hammond curve. It's a public key. It's widely supported. There's fewer security assumptions, and it's 32 bytes. And essentially creates your public key, your public encryption key here as well. To create entropy, i.e. to create enough randomness, we derive the key with signing with Ethereum signatures, and that gives us a encryption key to sign with and also decrypt and encrypt transactions. So the flow, I'm not going to dive into too much details here, but Alice simply registers her encryption key at the top with Secret Harbour. On the right-hand side, Bob registers, Charlie registers, so they all have their own public encryption keys. Alice, when creating a transaction, will retrieve the encryption keys from Secret Harbour, create the transaction based off Bob and Charlie's own encryption key public address, enqueues the transaction. Bob and Charlie are listening to Alice and see when Alice has queued a transaction. They retrieve the encryption key, they get the context, they decrypt the transaction, and once they decrypt the transaction, they can begin signing the transaction, and eventually everyone signs and executes the transaction at the end of the flow. So here is Harbour creating the public key. Here is where you can create an encrypted transaction. So they say you just want to send simple ETH transfer or do a more complex contract interaction. This is you signing and enqueuing the raw transaction with your public encryption key and using your signature of your own address. And then this is simply Bob and Charlie then signing the transaction because they have their own encryption key that matches what Alice has wrapped. They can decrypt it, understand the transaction details, and eventually execute. And what that means is only Alice, Bob, and Charlie can actually view this information. No one else can view this information. And that's it. That is essentially Secret Harbour. And I want to make a very, this is a really, really important point, is we call this Secret Harbour, but don't think this is everything you're doing is secret, right? We're just using basic encryption to encrypt the queued transaction data. Once it's executed on chain, it's public. People know what you did, essentially. And we're leaking metadata. So it's not a full privacy solution. People will still understand who is who is signing, how many signatures remain, and what multisig is transacting. So this is your transaction details are secret, but the metadata associated with your multisig is still public and known. So that's why this is a very specific solution when you want to stop doing, when you want to stop preventing multisig MEV with high values of high value transactions, or you have some critical protocol updates that you want to do, and you don't want anybody in the crowd or anybody in the world seeing what you're trying to patch up or what you're trying to execute between the queue and eventually executing on chain. We are bullish on solutions like Railgun and Bermuda for achieving full multisig privacy. So privatizing the signers, so no one knows who the signers are. Privatizing the multisig address, so you don't know the multisig address. And also the multisig configuration. Is it a 2 out of 3? Is it a 5 out of 7? Because what that does is kind of obfuscates as well. It's security by obfuscation. It's harder for malicious actors to identify, this is the security critical protocol multisig that I need to watch and I need to monitor and think of potential attack vectors for. So you're actually obfuscating that details, and that is helpful for security as another tool in the actual toolkit, not a foolproof solution either. And yes, that is essentially what we've built. Please try it out for yourself on harbour.safe.dev. Again, this is minimal dependencies and a way to privatize your queue. And also, if you want to know more about the solution, reach out to me on X. Sean McEngish is my name in Irish. Reach out to me on X as well if you'd like to speak about Secret Harbour. And I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any as well, because we have a bit of time. So if you have any questions about Safe, any questions about security or privacy, I'm down to discuss.
Hi, good morning. My question is, can you integrate this into an existing Safe for the governance of a protocol?
Yeah, so if you have a Safe right now, you can simply import your Safe to harbour.safe.dev. So any Safe that has been created, like version 1, version 1.1, 1.3, 1.4, this all can be used. So treat it as like a companion, essentially, for your current multisig as well. If you want to do some we don't expect everyone to be using this, but on certain use cases we do expect people to try it out. No more questions? Thanks everyone for listening, and catch me after as well. Thank you.